Yeah, it's better. It's better when it's folded on each other. You know, I need to invest in more black towels for myself. Like, not just for the keyboards. I actually have a lack of towels. Bananas are pulling through today. I'm sorry you're not staying long, Diz, but I'm glad that I was able to make it in time to catch you. I hope you're doing okay. I dropped my first smoothie, so I had to make a second one. All that fruit gone to waste. Anyways, good morning and welcome to Morning Medley number 293. I'm going to start with 293. How about that? 293 is Suspense Strings. It's just the same as the earlier strings, but it's got a little bit of a volume envelope on it. The attack is really, really, really high. And so it's coming in super slow. That's sound 293. Hello Liam, hello Taylor Nicole, hello Cyber, hello Diz. Hope all is well with all of y'all. So, a couple of nights ago, I was working on that song that is called, I think it's called Jumblebutt. I'm sorry. It's a tentative title. It's a working title. Jumblebutt on in FL Studio. And it kind of has been stuck for a pretty long time. But I ended up coming up with a chord progression for the bridge. There's a certain type of chord progression, a chord progression that I think Crackazat's very good at, which is making a kind of jazzy, somewhat jazzy chord progression that loops and has a voice-led melody over it, but it just loops, so it becomes disco. Like in any other context, it would be kind of a jazzy. It would be like a really jazzy progression, but I have it on underneath, or rather on top of like a 125 to 130 house beat, and it turns into kind of this disco thing. Good morning, Liana, and good morning, Crow. It sounds like mall music, says Crow. Taylor Nicole's migraine is gone. This is good. This is good. So much. Let me do it on 12. Hold on. There we go. Initially I was going, but I moved one note. I moved my index finger from this note to this note. So instead of hitting, I'm hitting, which is such a subtle difference. There's probably a big conversation to have about dissonance in music. One that I'm definitely not qualified to have. That's for sure. But it's kind of like how this chord and this chord are pretty different, even though I'm only moving one note. I've talked a lot recently about how changing chord progressions by moving just one note instead of the entire chord is a good way to kind of spice up chord progressions without having to do like wild movements all over the piano, like really, really subtle movements. And so in this song, I'm going from like kind of like a dark dissonant space to open up to a brighter chord. So I'm going like dark, dark, more dissonant, and then opening up to like a more bright, beautiful open chord. But I was trying to keep that bright chord a little bit dissonant, keeping some of the dissonance in there. So just kind of moving notes that are a little bit closer to each other instead of being evenly spaced can do that. So instead of hitting this chord, I'm hitting this chord. And it's such a subtle difference, I'm not even sure that everybody in the stream is going to be able to pick up on that. This to this. One, two. One, two. Very, very subtle difference, but going... I feel like is a better progression than going... It kind of gives it a little bit more dissonance and not that kind of cheesy rising feeling. There's a lot of ways to do upwards chord progressions without always rising. You know, like if I like for example, I could go, which is this nice even, step upward, or I can go. Same chords, just kind of moving the notes around so it's a little bit more varied and not just this very even, predictable climb up. Even changing the bass line, so the bass line has a little bit more movement in it, and it's not just one direction, you know. Crow says that note made me think of, it's more dreamy-esque. The chord you keep hitting. What? Hold on. Sorry, are you talking about this one or this one? A or B? A or B? Unless you're not talking about either one of those. Where you move your notes here. I agree, actually, Crow. I agree. This, in the interval that's doing that. See, I know a word. Interval. Anyways, the interval that's doing that is this. That. By itself doesn't really have a lot of significance or effect about what the notes around it. It does make it a little bit dreamier. Yeah, I hear the same thing you're hearing, Crow. Yeah. But it sounds like the moment in a sitcom where it cuts to the character remembering something. This one? Or this one? Also, I think that the hyper times, this sound is called hyper times. Hyper times with an N? Sorry. Not exactly sure what that means. I feel like I should. But it's an EP. Let's just say it's an electric piano, because that's what it is. I think the sound is doing a little bit of that too for you, Diz, because hypertimes, this particular sound, very popular in like 90s sitcoms. Full House had a little bit of it, Step by Step had a little bit of it, even Family Matters had a little bit of it. Pretty much all of the TGIF ABC lineup had a lot of it, like the electric piano and the scoring of it. And I don't know... It was probably just mirroring pop music at the time, because, I mean, late 80s... Oh, crap. The EP is a very 80s instrument. I mean, yes, it existed in the 70s, and there were quite a few 70s acts that used it. There's even a little bit of EP in, like Rhodes, like Fender Rhodes and electric pianos, and the Yamaha DX7. There's stuff like that in some late 70s stuff. But I feel like when Yamaha, and other companies, but Yamaha kind of spearheaded that whole DX7 sound. the keyboard was new. Something that's so interesting to me. Um, oh, good morning. Good morning, Lindsay. Something that's so something that's so like interesting to me is when you take when you take into consideration technology versus art. When you see like I'm probably not that qualified to do this about like movies and stuff like that and visual art because that's just not my corner of the world. But I'm sure there's probably a direct correlation between, movies looking so good after X piece of gear was made, or I don't know, maybe Unreal Engine allowed the water to look this cool, and then suddenly around that area, a lot of games started kind of forcing water physics and water visuals where they didn't necessarily need to happen. It's kind of like how after the technology for things being able to vibrate or shake, and then we had rumble packs, then we had the dual shock. A lot of games are incorporating a shaking controller. I would say, not unnecessarily, but I would say at any excuse they could get to make the controller shake, they were doing it. And nowadays, that's not happening so much with games, or at least not as often as it was when it was first happening. And I think that happens a lot in music. There's a lot of times where people will think, oh, how come all of this music sounds really jazzy or bossa nova inspired? Or how come this sound makes me think of 90s sitcoms? How come this sound makes me think of like kung fu movies? And a lot of times there's a very, very specific, intentional, cultural reason why that exists. Maybe there's a new piece of gear that was invented. Maybe there was a new instrument that came into popularity. Maybe a certain demographic or culture of people were migrating to a specific area around that time, and they were bringing all of their culture, food, music, art with them, stuff like that. But specifically about this sound, the hypertines, like those sounds feel very sitcom-y because in the 90s, which, I mean, there were sitcoms before the 90s, but I do feel like the 90s was like sick with sitcoms. I feel like there was just you couldn't walk two steps without hearing about a new sitcom. There were sitcoms everywhere. I feel like since there were so many sitcoms, a lot of them needed to be scored, and they weren't all scored by the same guy, but a lot of new cutting edge sounds were happening around that time, and the DX7 was one of them, the Yamaha keyboard that had that kind of Hypertines EP sound on it. So you're hearing a lot of that in 90s, not only in 90s sitcoms, but you're also hearing a lot of it in 90s music. If you just listen to like 90s pop, if you listen to 90s house, if you listen to really anything that was taking place in the 90s, there are a lot of latent sounds that came from the technology. Like guitars were always around, but I would say the 70s, 80s, and 90s were the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Wow, this is a conversation I've never had. The 70s and 80s and 90s were very that 30 years, I would say, was very, very crucial for keyboards. Even if you go into like Yamaha headquarters, you go into Roland headquarters, you go into those are the only two keyboard headquarters I've been in, but you go into either one of them, and a lot of like instrument places, I'm sure Fender has the same thing. You go into their headquarters, and they have like a timeline where there is like even car places do this. There's a Honda dealership not too far from my apartment that has it painted on their building where it's like 1973, and there's like a picture of like the old Honda, and there's like a picture of a robot for some reason. I guess Honda made one of the first robots. I don't know. Anyways, when you go into Yamaha or Roland, they have this kind of timeline of a date with a line down, and then like a picture of the instrument, and then a date with a line down, a picture of this instrument, a date with a line down. It's a timeline of the gear that they came out with. And there is this kind of like scarcity, sparsity, or even non-existence. But then as soon as like 70s hit, it's like boom, a bunch of stuff. And then the 80s hit, and it's like more stuff. And then the 90s hit, and it just gets crazier and crazier. And then the 2000s hit, and a lot of things, I'm not saying they slow down, but the innovation, there is like if there was a curve, if there was like a bell curve, I would say we're past the exponential spike of innovations in keyboards and keyboard sounds. I think that now what a lot of energy and ingenuity and innovation is put into is like a lot of software stuff for keyboards. It's not necessarily what cool sounds can this keyboard make. It's more so technical stuff. I feel like back then, just being able to hit a key on a keyboard and hear a specific sound come out of it, it was like, that's a blank sound, and no other keyboard on the market can make this sound. Now, with like emulation and with companies like Arturia that are doing, honestly, some really, really good emulation of like old analog synthesizers and keyboards, a lot of these companies are losing some of that. Oh, if you didn't buy the Korg Triton, there's no way you can get this sound. It's kind of we're gradually closing that gap, and I swear to you guys, for a lot of people, including myself, that gap's kind of already airtight. Like there are a lot of people that'll go like, this isn't a digital synth, this is an analog synth, this is an analog sound. A lot of people used to frown on me because I bought exclusively digital synthesizers because analog synthesizers are very expensive and finicky. But those people are like big brain. As far as like the actual music industry is concerned, I don't need to know how to play a violin to get the true violin sound. There's a lot of really good, accurate, and expensive and comprehensive sample libraries that are going to give you a very real sounding string, which is why the strings sound real in a lot of my songs. This says, because how much else can you improve the physical design of a keyboard? Isn't it basically perfect? Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, I think that it wasn't necessarily designing the keyboard visually when a lot of synthesizers came out. There was a lot about synthesizer workflow. That was a huge thing. In fact, the first time I ever heard the term workflow had to do with synthesizers. And when we get into talking about subtractive synthesis, there's a specific way to shape sound. Where it's like, oh, you choose your waveform first, then you choose your pitch envelope, then you choose your effects layering, then there's different like layouts. And some synthesizers, I can even admit as somebody that loves subtractive synthesis, some synthesizers are very difficult to use. The Microkorg S is very complicated to use because the entirety of the synthesis on the thing is only controlled with knobs, which, as you can imagine, can get very confusing. It's like one of those things where they give you 8 knobs, and then there's a big knob up here that changes the parameter of each knob. It's a lot, but that can always be improved on, Diz. And I think that there was a particular point in time where a lot of keyboards. Think about cell phones. Remember when it was like they were trying to make them smaller and smaller and thinner and smaller and tinier and smaller and smaller and thinner and lighter and smaller, and then eventually having a really tiny phone wasn't dope, and they started making them bigger and bigger and bigger and wider and bigger and heavier and bigger and wider. I feel like the same thing happened for keyboards, where they were like trying to get rid of a lot of the knobs and faders. If you look at some of the oldest modular synthesizers, it was an actual patch board. You have a bunch of like wires, you're plugging things into other things. And then they made it to where you didn't need wires. Now it was buttons, faders, sliders, and knobs. And then they made it to where it was like, let's put screens on. So that way people won't have to do all this stuff like the USS Enterprise. They'll just be able to look at one screen and navigate that screen. And then people were like, I don't like screens. And now synthesizers are actually trying to go against that and go back to a more analog thing. It's, it comes and goes in waves. I think there's a specific time, in music specifically, Diz, and everybody, where I feel like music was trying to digitize itself, not even as a product to consume, but more as an art form to make. People were trying to get as digital as possible. People wanted it to be very mechanical, but also very convenient and sleek and look like and feel like a computer. We were getting further and further away from it feeling like a hard synth or a piece of hardware, putting computers in it. And I feel like people went so far in that direction that for whatever reason, people got sick of that and started coming back out of it. People were like, I don't want this anymore. I want all the buttons. I want all the knobs. I want it to be a physical piece of stuff, because if you're smart, and everyone here is, if you're smart, goodbye, Diz. Thank you so much for being on the stream. If you're smart, technically, you can kind of have any synthesizer with a MIDI controller. If you have a MIDI controller and a laptop, you can get any synthesizer. You really want a Juno G, just get like an Arturia emulation of a Juno G, and now you have a MIDI controller, and now you have a Juno G. You really want my MX61 Yamaha, get a MX61 sample library base, get a MIDI rig, get a MIDI controller, and then you have an MX61 for a fraction of the cost. You really want a microKORG, get the emulator for it, and then get a MIDI controller. With like software, you can kind of get nearly any synthesizer. I think the fact that synthesizers sell at all is a testament to people wanting to go in the other direction from having everything hooked up to a computer to having like a real piece of, hardware in their hands that has onboard sounds. Think about something like a MIDI controller, or a better example is a MIDI fighter. I have a DJ Tech Tools MIDI Fighter 64, and that thing makes no sound. It's just basically a remote control. It doesn't do anything. It has to be hooked up to a computer. And then take something like my microKORG, my MX61, my Yamaha CP. This thing right here, it has sound in it. It has everything built in. I think there are two different directions. One direction is people going more towards real hardware, myself, and some people going harder into the direction of software, which is also fine. If you think about it, all of Nice Dream, Love Dream, and Speed Dream were made on nothing but software. Only once I got into Daydream, Lush Dream, Signals, Quick Breath, Ego Death was I actually using instruments. Before then it was all VSTs, guys. So why did we get on this conversation? I don't remember. I feel like it was Diz's fault, but Diz is gone now, so I guess I'll blame myself. He's back. What if it's the same bee? I never thought about that. What if all this time, I think every morning bees want to be at my window? What if it's just the same dude? Anyway, sorry. sloppy as I haven't played this song in too long. There we go. Feels like noon already. Hello. Escalator? Escalator JPEG? This doesn't have his name yet. It says Leon about a song that I'm assuming was tucked somewhere into the morning medley. Let's find it, Liana. Leon, I'm gonna number what I remember playing, and you pick a number. You pick which number, if any, apply. So number one is going to be this one. That one. So that's number one. Number two, it was the sorrowful one, I think. Sorrowful. Was it this one? Was it? Was it that one? Yeah, the pensive one. It does not have a name yet. It does not have a name. It reminds me of a movie that I liked a lot. Some Korean film, but I'm trying to divorce that connection. Kind of like divorcing the connection between this song and the Flintstones. It's a Flintstones Christmas. Yeah, the song does not have a name yet. You want to name it? You're on a roll. You're on a roll. Double Lutz I've never forgotten. Remember Escaflowne? Holy crap. I do. I wish I didn't. Anyways. Holy crap. I used to call it Escaflowne for some reason. Unless that is the correct pronunciation. And I'm wild. Was it actually Escaflowne? Anyways, yeah, I remember that. Al Capone, Escaflowne. I also named Booba's theme. Also Melancholy of Trash Man, so I think I'm tapped out of names. Wow, alright, well. It's fair. That's fair. I can't ask too much. Sorry, I don't watch Mecha Trash. That's good. I should say that. I should start saying that more often. Yeah. So currently the unnamed sorrowful one has two phases of the song. The first phase of the song is this one where it's just there's that phase, and then the second phase is the and then I end up, to connect the two, I go do want a third phase of that song. I do want a third phase of that song if it doesn't end up being too long. If I do that, you know. Let's start up with the second phase. Kind of sounds like Midnight Drift 2, says Umbe. Umbe's got Midnight Drift 2 ears. Hold on. Midnight Drift 2. Da 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 Does it sound like that? Or is it the second phase that you're talking about? Or are you talking about the part where it goes? Where it goes? No. Are you talking about that part of the song, okay? Chords or melody? What movie does it remind you of? What's it about? It's a movie about two girls in Korea somewhere. It's a horror film. I think that movie is actually a really good example of why Asian horror. I'm trying not to make it specific to Japan or Korea, but particularly Korean. I don't know. But Asian horror. I'm gonna say Korean horror, but it doesn't just mean horror from South Korea. But Korean horror films do that whole it's a horror movie, but there's also definitely going to be a lot of catharsis and growth, and by the end of it, nothing's going to be scary anymore. I feel like 2/3 of the way through 3/4 of the way through a Korean horror film, it's not even scary anymore. It's more so about somebody dealing with things. I don't know. Wow, that's vague. The movie's called Two Sisters, Tale of Two Sisters, I believe, though, Lindsay. That song is hype. The second phase of the song. Da, 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 I guess I can hear it, kind of. I guess so. Do you have anything named Catharsis? I do, actually. It was a song. It was a song by a band that I was in that I co-wrote. What was I looking at? I was looking at something recently, and it almost made me miss being in a band. Oh, I guess it was an episode of Baywatch. Called Beneath the Rain. Yes, I ever. Into the Clouds, Beneath the Rain. Beneath the City? Is that what that song's called? Beneath the City? Is that what that's called? Or is it called Under the City? Under the City. Under the City. It is very kind of says Umbe. Yeah, word up, Umbe. Wow. I have so much work to do today. I am still very into that chord progression. for like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's called. Subhuman. Sorry. Neath the rain. Neath the old willow tree. Elephant Dilemma, Yogurt Shop. I've lost I've lost the thread. What is this? Elephant's Dilemma, Yogurt Shop. What? Why Elephant's Dilemma? Why? Oh, because the elephant on my shirt. Word up. I'm slow. Because my brain was somewhere. Dude. Oh, I'm a sucker for like. Like I really like repetitive. And calling it a melody is too much. I guess it would be a repetitive. I don't know musical terms. I'm gonna call it melody, but I know it's not necessarily as complicated as melody. I like having that like, and then I like when you change it slightly. I love stuff like that. Like going into kind of like weird or slightly left of whatever it is, and I feel that in this song where it's and I go. I love like. Do you kind of get what I'm talking about? Is what I'm saying making any sense at all? There's a few of my songs I do that in. Even honestly, in like, it's like this very slight. It's hard to describe. Exactly. It's hard to describe. It's hard to describe with limited musical theoretical knowledge to somebody that is not necessarily a musician also. But there's a very specific thing that I like when I hear it in songs, and I like when I'm able to implement it in songs. And I think it's core lies in predictable patterns. Predictable patterns, like establishing a predictable pattern. Changing things slightly so that you end up in kind of a different place. You land in a different place. Because I can do like. Like you can end up in a different place by slightly changing chord progressions, slightly changing chords, and I think if I'm doing the da 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 like da da da, see, I can kind of do that all. I can keep going down the piano doing that. But instead I go. So I kind of bring it to a different place. It's a hard thing to engineer on my own. It's a hard thing to just decide that I want to do it and then to simply do it. It's more of a thing that I have to like kind of accidentally slip into. Because I've only done it maybe in like 2-3 songs, I think. Who is this? Hey, Charlie. Charlie's back. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood says Charlie. Not the first time that's been referenced. But welcome to the stream, Charlie. I hope you've had a good Wednesday so far. If it is indeed Wednesday where you are. Liam says the thumbnail looks like I'm vaping. Does it? That's cool. Is it because of the thought bubble with the name, or the number of the morning medley in it? I wish I had the. I've said this before, but I wish I had the Omnisphere jazz vocals that like I put like the ones in Dropout, the ones in Just Believing. I wish I had those in this keyboard because these just don't cut it. Freaking, that's Ace Combat right there, baby. I think I think that honestly saved that song. There is somebody whose voice I hear on that song. The only complaint I guess I have with Jumble, see the monitor died. You know, I feel like ever since I went to AT&T, I feel like ever since I just walked through their door, I feel like my Spectrum internet's been notably even worse than it was before. Like now it's about 10 times a day it cuts out for however long. Anywho, I'll try to ignore it and continue what I was talking about. But I think that saved that song. The only complaint that I have is there's two songs. There's Jumblebutt and there's Into the Small. That one complaint is they are both in the same key, I think. I don't know. They both use a lot of the white keys, I know that much. Into the Small being the main chord progression, going like, wait, hold on. Here, conjure it on me. Conjure the song. I can't. Oh wait. There it is. Those are the chords. And then towards the end it goes, which is nice and it's very pretty. But then the song that I'm working on right now, its main chord progression is. Oh wait, sorry, it's. See how similar that is? It's just slightly too similar. And then the chord progression for Into the Small is. See that? Again, into the Jumblebutt. I feel like they're a little bit too close, so that's one I don't know, problem, I guess, issue. That's one thing that's been on my mind is I'm like, the verses, the chords for the verses are not only in the similar key, but they use a lot of the same chords. This being one of those chords, this being one of those chords, and even this kind of being one of those chords. So I was already worried there. And then I got a little worried because in the end of Into the Small, I have a slight departure from those chords where I go. which is nice. That's also very nice and pretty. But then in the other song, the Jumble Butt song, I have this. You guys have heard that enough. But they share a few things in common. They share, of course, a myriad of different chords that are the same. So a myriad of the same chords. But in the first song, in Into the Small, this went all nice and unique so far. But then we have this part right here. That part also exists in the newer song. Because I go, in the second part I go. That little jump down still exists. That's in Jumble Butt, and then Into the Small, it is. See, they're very similar. They share a lot of chords in common. They share a lot of even just like chord progressions kind of in common, and they both lyrically mention flying, which is like even the lyrics are derivative of each other. But the problem is I love both songs so much that I'm trying to figure out how do I consolidate? Do I make them just like kind of like a spiritual transition? I'm sure you guys have heard songs, especially on hip hop records, where like one song will be a full song and then the next song or another song on the album will just be that same first song but with like the beat slowed down, like the beat half timed, and then they put some different verses on the top of it. Do I do that? Do I make it a B-side? Do I make it some special version of the song, like that only appears on like the deluxe version of a mixtape or album? I have no idea really right now. But this is a problem I'm having, is that the two songs are developing at the same time very similarly. Like I keep waiting for this branch to kind of open for like, oh, this song's more of this and this song's more of this, but they're just so together, and I'm definitely not doing it intentionally. Rhiannon says elephant shirt. Indeed, elephant shirt. Yes. Holiday says Omni really out here teaching us his secrets every day. What secrets? Which ones did I teach now? Cyber says I've heard it so many times. Lo-fi hip hop. What? I must have missed something, guys. The monitor did die. If there was something that was said, I missed it. Are you talking? What are you talking about, Cyber? What have you heard many times? They can be fraternal twins, A, B sides. Yeah, see, so that's what I was talking about, Leon, where I was like, maybe make one a B side. But, God, there's both, and maybe this is just me with creative brain, you know, and you know how you are. When you're a baker, you bake the rolls. You can't throw away any of the rolls. You put your heart into these. And so it's like, I love them both so much. And they both are very important. However, here's the thing. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, if I get a feature vocalist that isn't me to sing on one of them, it helps. It helps bring them, it helps push them somewhere else. I don't know how often the musicians in these streams have worked with other, it was a reference to something you said earlier. Oh. Sorry. I think for those of you that are musicians in this stream, and more importantly for those of you that are used to collaborating with people, sometimes when I'm collaborating with people, depending on the type of person I'm making a song with, that song can stop feeling like me. Sometimes there's really big personalities. Just think about when you're hanging out with friends. I have a lot of people that I can hang out with, right? Plenty of people. It's a party over here. And so there are certain people that will push me into a different version of myself. You know, we're all varied, right? I think as somebody that kind of has a penchant to mind my own business. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, Omni's really quiet. What a quiet individual." And then, of course, around a certain other group of people, I am more loud. More loud and particularly punchy than anybody else there. It's a thing. But I think this also exists in music. Sorry, music. This also exists in music. When making a song with somebody, sometimes I can take over. Sometimes I can be like the leader or the director, making the song and then like making a foundation for somebody else to kind of dance on. And a lot of times artists can like really blend with me and make my sound, whatever that is, shine. And a lot of times that artist can outshine you, and it's definitely not a competition. Using the term shine and outshine makes it sound like it's more of a competitive thing, but it is collaborative. It's just, if you hear a track with, 40 and Drake, since Drake is the voice on it, Drake kind of shines. And even if you have a producer's ear, 40 feels very in support of and like pumping up Drake, the vocalist on the track. If you listen to a track with me and Mia Gladstone, Mia Gladstone will force me to rein in a lot of my wilder tendencies and sounds. You know? And that's not a bad thing. That is just a thing that is true and happens. I also feel a similar way with. I also feel similarly with working with Ehi. No, never mind. Ehi kind of lets me while out, and then Ehi will while out. But I would say that Ehi, as far as collaborators, is the only artist I've ever worked with where I can kind of go pretty like I can go like 80% on like the wild Omni knob, and he'll like rock there right there with me. I think that when you're working with a lot of other artists, though, guys, knowing not only what that other artist's limitations, strong points, stuff like that are, but knowing your own can help you in that collaboration. If you're going in to work with somebody where their strength is drum programming, and that's maybe a weakness for you, you can just let them rock out and do their thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no sound of you in the drums, but it definitely has, it has its effect whether they're going to shine there and you're going to take a back seat. Now, I'm saying that because there are a lot of artists that I've made songs with where it doesn't necessarily feel like my song. We talk about Chocolat in the stream quite a bit because to me, Chocolat, in 2019, that's the most divorced I've ever felt from a track. Where it feels, I know it's a collaboration and I know where my contribution lied, but it doesn't necessarily, I've gone into it at length. What are you saying, Cyber? What did I do? I'm sorry. I'll turn down the wild now. But my point is, that would be an example of a song that I feel less of myself in. I feel like it more so shined on Tom. Whereas there are songs that I've made like Magic Girl, where it's me and Colada, and I feel like that was an Omni song. I took the reins on that song, and Colada was kind of there for the ride. And so I think when not even necessarily when going into projects, but when looking at your projects afterwards, there is a lot of that. There is a lot of, this one feels like me, this one does not feel like me. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Just the other people coming in are going to take it to a different place. And the reason that I'm bringing up all of this is because I do have these two songs that sound very similar, right? Their chord progression sounds similar. Even their ensemble sounds very similar. They both have like piano, Rhodes piano, actual bass guitar from the MX61. They have strings, they have brass, they have like the basic disco setup. They're both very disco-oriented, directed tracks. But I could get somebody like Kalina Zanders to sing on one. I could get somebody like Future or Ehi or even Chuck on one. And then maybe the other one I'm singing and I'm taking the reins. And it is going to push the song in two very different ideological directions, even if they do have the same chord progression, even if they do have the same instrument ensemble. A good example of this, I don't know how many people are actually fans of Danger Mouse here, but like the same major producer that made, a lot of what was on Demon Days, Gorillaz album, also produced all of Gnarls Barkley, also produced, Broken Bells, also produced like Jack White songs. And when you listen to them all stacked up side by side, it's like, yeah, a lot of these songs have the same chords in them. They have the same ensemble. But because CeeLo Green is singing on this one, and Damon Albarn is singing on this one, and Jack White is singing on this one, and Norah Jones is singing on this one, and MF Doom has vocals on this one, they do have very different flavors, even though the instrumental themselves are, pretty similar. Um, and so I think for these two songs I might bring in like guest vocals or something. Because I love them both. Yes. Thank you, Liana. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I've never been faced with this dilemma, though. Or I shouldn't say I've never been faced with this dilemma, but I would say that I've rarely been faced with this dilemma when I had as big of a Rolodex of potential collaborators as I do right now. When something like this would happen back in 2013, there was no Ehi, or there was no me, or there was no Abby, there was no Young Skirt that I could call up and like shoot them a Google Drive folder and see what they can do with a track. The only reason me and Young Skirt even have the song Uber to Cerritos together is because I posted myself doing an exercise in ambience. I don't know if you guys remember when I was doing that a lot, but I used to do exercises in ambiance on Instagram where I would just live loop stuff, like really ambient sounding stuff, and I would do like really open piano chords underneath it. And he was inspired by one, and he like recorded a verse to it on his phone, like on the recorder of his phone, and then sent it to me in an Instagram DM. And I was like, oh, word, here, have the instrumental. Like, do that for real next time. And then we made a song. I enjoyed when Skirt came in there at one time. He seems chill. Skirt's chill. Skirt's really chill. The word chill being operative. I think that talking about people being people pushing you into a different like form or version of yourself. Skirt. Whenever I hang out with Skirt, it pushes me into the very, very chill person. Because Skirt is more hyped than I am. About just about everything. Like, just going over to Skirt's place and, like, playing Mortal Kombat. That's, like, all we would do. We wouldn't actually make music, now that I think about it. I've never been at Skirt's place and made music. The only thing I've ever done at Skirt's place is eat and play Mortal Kombat. Crap. I'm not even a big Mortal Kombat fan. He just really likes it, and I like playing video games, so I'll just play Mortal Kombat with him, and then... Crap. Did we do anything else? I feel like we did something. We definitely didn't make music, though. Oh, we watched Avengers. He lives really close to the movie theater, so we would just, like, go walk to the theater, watch Avengers, and then he really likes Chick-fil-A, so we get Chick-fil-A, play Mortal Kombat. I miss him. That's my dude. Anyways, what's up, Retro? Just another stream, another day, another stream, Retro. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're having a good Wednesday. Yeah, Skirt is chill, though. Dang. I remember when he moved out here. I remember when he moved out here from freaking Atlanta. That was a weekend. That was a wild weekend. He did come over for a while then. That was cool. Weird times. We're in weird times right now, guys. Anywho, I think for major projects, I actually don't like loading it with features. And a big reason why that is because I personally I'm the compartmentalized king, where I like things in their space and in their place. And I think for big releases, if we're talking like Dice Dream, Love Dream, Daydream, whatever, what have you, I like to maybe have 2 features, maybe 3 if I'm feeling wild. But like 2 features is like, is doing a lot for me. And I think the reason for that is because I used to have that series, the House of Omni series, where it was a specific place where all of my collaborations went, you know? If I want to make a song and feature Mars, I put it on House of Omni. If I want to make a song and I want to feature Celadon City, there it goes. I want to feature Bougie. I want to feature, who else was on there? Tribes. If I wanted to feature something, I put it on a specific collaborative piece of work. But there is like this weird ownership I like having of like if I'm gonna be putting out um, a big piece of work, I kind of don't really always want to feature people. One of the main reasons that I featured as many people as I did on Quick Breath, being Mia, Abby, and Tom, is because I personally felt like I would bore people if I didn't. I think that album sequencing, I've talked about album sequencing for a while in the stream every now and then. Album sequencing, for anybody that isn't familiar and maybe wasn't in here for those streams, it's just the art of ordering songs on an album. I'm not necessarily putting a lot of work into album sequencing on the pop side of things. Like, I'm not looking at a lot of other pop albums or big records and going like, this is good sequencing, and then patterning mine after that. Now, to say that I don't do sequencing at all would be wild. It isn't random. The order on my pieces of work is done intentionally. Even if you just look at Quick Breath and Ego Death, the reason that was done that way is because the track titles mirror each other. The reason I was sequencing everything on Love Dream the way it's sequenced is because it tells a story, like a love story between this boy and this girl. The reason things were sequenced the way they were on Speed Dream is because it was literally a narrative story. The reason things were sequenced on Daydream is because it was a story of depression. That's what that whole album is about. And so there is there's narrative sequencing going into my works, but very rarely is there energy consumer-facing sequencing. And when I say energy sequencing and when I say consumer-facing sequencing, a lot of people will say, well, this is the part in the album where your sad song needs to come in. This is the part where we need a slow song. This is the part of the album where you're supposed to pick the energy back up. This is the part of the album where you're supposed to have a weird song, the strange one. People talk about how to optimize listener pleasure and enjoyment while listening to your work, assuming that they're listening to it all in order, And I think that is important. That is important, but I've always gone more narrative-based sequencing, which is like I'm trying to tell a story, and I don't necessarily care what the BPM of this track is going into this track. I don't really care how long this track is going into this track. It's more of a narrative thing, because I just very rarely release bodies of work that don't have a narrative. Less Dream was a body of work I released. When that came out, there really was no sequencing genius behind that. There's just too many songs. It was way too many songs, and I was like, I'm going to put these all out. Please enjoy them. I tried to mess around with sequencing early on, but I was just like, whatever. Well, who cares? Listen to it on shuffle if you want. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, for all the other things, sequencing matters. And going into whatever body of work I put out this year, I can't say next year anymore, whatever body of work I put out this year, I've been thinking a lot about that. A lot about sequencing, a lot about project length, a lot about redundancy, a lot about the jarring factor. Have we talked about any jarring factors? It doesn't have to be a body of my work, but have you guys ever listened to an album and been jarred by a track that comes next? I feel like I've so rarely ever been jarred. And I think that's done intentionally. I feel like when I listen to an album, when I listen to a mixtape, when I listen to an EP, very rarely does the next song come on and I go like, whoa, what are they doing? It's usually like, yeah, this is what I signed up for and this sounds like that artist. Like Nelward isn't surprising me anytime super soon. Maxwell isn't surprising me anytime super soon. Ehi isn't like putting in a track on a body of work when I go like, oh, this is a weird choice. It all makes sense. And maybe I'm just hyper, what's the word? Hyper critical of my own stuff. or maybe I'm just too varied in sound, but there are some times where I really want to put something on a project and I'm like, I can't put this on. This is going to be really jarring. I think on Lush Stream, there were like 4 songs that actually weren't supposed to be on Lush Stream because, in my opinion, they crossed over into a different type of beat. You know, you listen to what is this? What's this? What is that? Groom cake? Yeah. You listen to Groom Cake. You listen to Kiwi. Whoa, I haven't played a lot of these songs in a while. You listen to those songs, and my piano playing of them aren't doing them justice right now, but you listen to them in the context of the EP, and they do have this kind of like chill. I can play this in the background while I'm like, whatever, you know, you get the demographic, like lo-fi beats type thing. Chill to play in the background. But then there are songs like Button Willow on that body of work. There's also Metrolink. There's a lot of songs that are still beats, but they're very like jarring, stuttery, jittery, aggressive beats. And I thought, you know, I should make an EP that's just beats like this. But I was like, I've already put out Daydream. I'm putting out Lush Dream. I can't have a third Dream coming out this year. I can't dream 3 times in 1 year. So I just shoved them onto Lush Dream. And I thought that that was going to make a very jarring listening experience, but maybe it didn't. I don't know. Maybe I was hypercritical of it. Anywho. Where are we at? Are we at 11 o'clock? We're close. Wow, we're really close. Hey! Check me out. Anyways, I should go over news, guys. Season 3's coming to get us. It's coming soon. But it's not here yet. So we're going through another week of wonders. Today's Wednesday. I'm fully stocked on Calipus. I have some leftover chicken in the fridge, so that means I do not need to leave the house at all today. I think I have to leave at some point to drive. I have to like drive my roommate to pick up a chair from somebody in Pasadena, so that's a thing. But other than that, I'm pretty much going to be working all day, so that's good for me. It's time for breaths and deaths. Ooh. The time for dreams is over. Ooh. Whoa. What if Lush Dream was the last dream? Imagine the look. Imagine the look on all of my disappointed Japanese fans' faces. They only listen to the dreams out there, guys. Quick Breath and Ego Death did nothing in Japan. Korea seems to like it, if I'm going off of analytics alone. Anyways, no, I'll probably do another dream. Remember when I had that EP? I had that EP where I said I was going to start a Nightmare series, but it was going to be released under Lambo Crasher, back when I was still doing the Lambo Crasher side project. I thought Japan liked footwork, says anybody. They do. They love footwork, but, when I say they didn't like Quick Breath, I mean the entire project. I don't mean specifically the song Quick Breath, which was footwork. I think the entirety of the project was like boring, disregarding, jarring enough that it just didn't latch on there. Japan stopped at Lush Stream. They still listen to Lush Stream though. Anywho, Japan is all over the place. Indeed, it's in our hearts. It's in the sky. It's in the ocean, Pacific. I think, in general, though, guys. I think in general, if I'm speaking in the broadest of terms. There's more dream stuff coming. I don't know if it's going to be the next thing I put out, but some songs sound like dreams to me. Nice Dream sounds like dreams. Love Dream sounds like dreams. Speed Dream sounds like dreams. Lush Dream sounds like dreams. Daydream sounds like dreams. If I'm being honest, guys, picture this sounds like dreams to me. Just Believing sounds like dreams to me. Into the Sky sounds like dream. Into the, what is it called? Into the, anyway, whatever. I forgot the name of that song. Anyways, That song sounds like dreams to me. This new song I have sounds like dreams. There are certain songs that I make and I go like, this is cool, this is really good, but it doesn't sound like a Dream series track to me. But a lot of the stuff that I'm making does sound like a Dream series track, so maybe 2021 has a Dream release. Into the Small. Thanks, Cyber. I'm gonna change the lyric to Into the Small. Into the Small, never be tall. I think I think though that's definitely not gonna be called Into the Sky when I finish it. I can't name it that, but it won't be called Into the Small either. I'm gonna change the name. Um, but yeah, dream stuff, and I'm probably. I mean, I'm saying a lot of stuff, guys. I'm saying a lot of stuff that probably isn't true. I might not release a Dream series this year. Maybe I release no music at all in 2021. Who knows? But I think that, and I think that if I'm being smart, I'm saying I'm probably putting out a song before any big body of work. I have some bodies of work, guys, that don't have singles. Believe it? Can you believe that? Oh my god, no singles. Yeah, I don't have a Nice Dream had a single. Love Dream did not. Speed Dream, technically every song was a single because I was dropping them one at a time. Lush Dream, no single. Daydream, no single. Signals, no single. A lot of times I'll just drop a project and people hate that. People hate it when you just drop a project. So um, I don't know. Maybe I release one song, and then I treat the rest of 2021 like it was 2020, and I just disappear. But yeah, I do. I appreciate that. I appreciate the patience. Goodness, what a year! What a year last year. What a year this year, probably. But yeah, that's the news. Season 3 is coming. Eventually, I'm going to get back on quarantines. Eventually, I'm trying to go into this year by getting back on whatever type of horse. I'm trying to ride again, doing the thing, doing all the things. I'm trying to figure out the best way to rig my cameras so that I'm trying to minimize jank going into this year. Minimize jank. It's wild under my computer desk, guys. There's the amount of wires and cables. Like, I mean, I've done a lot to like clean it up. Like, I have them all wrapped in the little ties, and they're up against the wall, so I can clearly see what goes to what. They're even labeled. They have little tags on them. But it's still wires. Like, you can't make them not there. It is a vine jungle under there, and I don't like it. But I'm trying to minimize jank. I would like to get to the point to where the camera that aims down at the keyboards, I would like to get to a point where it is stable and it's not hooked to a phone gooseneck that's connected to, the keyboard. So anytime I hit a key, it shakes. I would like to get away from that. And I would like to also get a third camera. I would also like to call AT&T and have them not bring their man out. But that's whatever. Season 3 is coming. Quarantunes is probably going to come back at some point, and there will probably be some music out. That's all I gotta say. Get on the horse, be a force, says Cyber. On the course, speak Morse and do your chores. I think that speaking Morse code and being able to speak sign language are two of those things that I wish was like forced on us as kids. I wish that sign language and Morse code were things that we just had to learn, like math. But yeah, I'm gonna try to improve that. There is going to be an entire week where all I do is work on the stream when I'm not streaming, and so if that makes sense, like work on things that are supposed to improve the stream, but not actually stream for that week. So it won't really be like a week off. It'll be a week working on the stream. You guys just won't see me or it. Sign language is pretty easy to learn, says Umbe. It really is is that no one speaks it. Or, yeah, I would like to be able to know that. I worked on a group project in college with a guy who was a Morse descendant. Very random. A Morse descendant? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that, like a descendant of the person who made Morse code, or is that what it is? Oh, I never thought about that. Was the last person's name who invented Morse code named Morse? His great grandpa made Morse code. Oh, was he like? Oh my god, I never thought of it as a name. I thought it meant something. I guess all names mean something. Crow says already. Already what? Already over? I hope you got good sleep, Dar. Yeah, 2 hours does fly by, Crow. I do like that it's 2 hours. 2 hours feels just right sometimes. Sometimes 2 hours can feel extremely long when the chat's dead, and sometimes 2 hours can feel like 15 minutes when the chat is particularly jumping. But yeah, I'm glad that I put the time limit on it. Back in the Instagram days, I used to just stream until I got hungry or until I had to do something. And that was a time. That was a time to be me. The first suggested video is Omniclaw, says Dar. Oh. I'm sorry to hear that. Liana wants us to have a toe tapping Tuesday. Don't do that, Liana. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that because I'm so brain dead and impressionable right now in my little cave that if you tell me it's Tuesday, I'll go and eat pizza. I'll go grab pizza again, and not until it's in my body and doing its little terrible tango will I realize, oh, this happened yesterday. Yesterday was Tuesday. Oh boy. Dar says, should I click it? Should I take the plunge? Dar's asking if you should click on an Omniclaw suggested video. I mean, if you want to. It's only like 3 minutes, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how long they are, but they're pretty short. Short enough to repress the memory of it, I hope. Every day is a terrible tango. What are we doing? What are we doing, Liana? What's the Wednesday then? But yeah, that's all the news, guys. Season 3's coming. It's a new year. I'm trying to do the thing. I'm trying to do the thing where I make it not last year. At some point, I am going to feel better about life, and I'm going to shave the hair off of my face and go out into the world. But that day is not today. That's good. I'm glad to hear that, Dar. Suppressing memories and moving past things is arguably all I do anymore. I want to thank everybody for being respectful to me and polite to each other in the stream. You really never know. You never know, guys. You never know. These days, the internet, well, you never know, right? You never really know. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. hopefully for morning medley number 294. and then the day after that will be another 6-hour production stream. The internet's been so bad lately, guys. I'm not trying to jinx the stream. I'm just saying for the past 5 days, every morning it cuts out for about 4 or 5 times. So let's hope against hope for Friday's stream. See if we can make it. I don't even know what I'm going to make. That should be fun. Avoid having wacky whoopsie Wednesday, says Liana. Word. Dar's talking about my nipple. Hey Dar, which one is it? Stage left? Is it stage left? I think that's my better one. I'll see you tomorrow, Dar. I'll be in the Discord though, because I'm gonna be on my computer all day. Do something cool with your Wednesday, guys. Do something. Abba.